Please join us in welcoming CEO and co-founder at Wego, Ross Veitch, and Chief Operating Officer at Trip.com, Schubert Liu, in discussion with Skift Asia editor, Peden, Bhutia.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the concluding session of Skift Global Forum East. I hope you've had great takeaways for the past 2 days from all the sessions. And we've had this event at a very opportune moment when we are all looking forward to 2023 and trying to understand what that means for travel. Euromonitor has come out with a report today where they've said that despite recession fears, consumer growth, the travel spending is going to grow. So that's great news for us. I have with me Ross Veitch, the co-founder and CEO of Wego, and Schubert Liu, the Chief Operating Officer of Trip.com, joining me on stage. Ross, you've made it, in my past discussions, you've always told me that you want to be for the Middle East what Trip.com is for Asia, right? And we got you on stage as well. So, you started off as a meta search, right? And then you built booking capabilities with flights and hotels. And now you want to be a one-stop shop for travel and online shopping.
Yeah, so, thanks, Peden. Great to be here. And first, I'd just like to say how awesome it is to have this event in Dubai. I remember dropping by to see Rafat in New York, maybe 2017, to lobby him to do this. So it's great to see it's finally happening. And to use that football analogy, for your first shot on goal, I think you've hit the back of the net. So good job.
Also, thank you very much for the breakfast.
Yes, you're welcome. Yeah, so we started our life in Asia. But we quickly found a new home here in Dubai, and we're effectively dual headquartered, Singapore and Dubai. We do our tech, product and data science work out of Singapore, and we do all of our business and marketing out of Dubai. And we're very much focused on the MENA market opportunity. We started with a meta search or marketplace model, and at the start of COVID, we started adding some booking capabilities. We sort of found that every time we surveyed our users, they either thought they were already booking with us or wanted to book with us. So we've kind of done that to take some friction out of the process. But we also want to be the online partner of choice for anybody who's interested in targeting the Middle Eastern traveler audience. So whether you're an OTA, an airline, a hotel chain, or a NTO, we want to be your first partner of choice. And we've been in the region now over a decade. We've got about 40 million app downloads. There's about 10 million people a month using Wego, either in the native apps or the web. I'm happy to say we're actually the #1 travel app across the MENA region now. We're sort of like neck and neck with Booking.com, but so that's sort of a milestone we're quite happy to hit. There's about $1 billion of GMV coming off the platform at the moment. And yeah, so Trip.com's always been an inspiration. What you've done in China is amazing. If anybody hasn't played with the Trip.com app, I highly recommend it. And yeah, big source of inspiration, both from the product, but also the way you've built up the business. And
okay. Schubert, I want you to begin by letting us know that what exactly does your role entail at Trip.com?
Sure. Maybe by first starting introducing Trip.com Group, just so people understand. Because
does it need an introduction?
Well, I don't think everybody fully understands the scope of what we have. We are definitely a global leading OTA. We have a portfolio of companies, including Ctrip, Skyscanner, Trip.com. So what my role is really around Trip.com, the international travel, to be able to bring travelers to all around the world, and also to be leverage the technology that we have across all the multiple platforms. We are definitely attracting a lot of eyeballs in two of the most populated countries in the world. So we are a very important force for travel. And in the last couple of years, we've been impacted a lot by the ups and downs of policies and so forth. But I think good signs are coming. And that's something we're hoping for.
Yes, we are all hopeful about that. But Schubert, I want to understand, and of course everybody else would want to know, what is your interest in the Middle East? Because, as your partner company, Make My Trip, where you own a 49% stake, already had made it very obvious that they had Middle East ambitions, and they are there in the region. So why would Trip.com still come to the Middle East?
Great question. So as I said, there are a different portfolio of companies that we're offering, and each brings a different population of visitors. That's the key difference. Make My Trip brings a particular interest, a particular group to Middle East. Trip.com brings a different one, and Ctrip brings yet another different one. Okay. So I think that's the main value that we're seeing why we need multiple different brands to be looking at this market. Why is this market so important? Because it's one of those most untapped regions for travelers around those regions. They just haven't been here enough. They don't understand it yet. And there's a lot of cultural misunderstanding of the region. And there's a lot of opportunity and excitement, as we've been mentioning in previous sessions, about all the events, all the world stage things that's already happening. On top of it, we're seeing governments coming together, new contracts being signed. So that's a very good underlying momentum. And yeah, we're hoping to bring a lot more value to the region.
Okay, while you talk about the opportunity that the region presents for OTAs, if I am someone who wants to partner with Trip.com, I mean, look, why would I partner with you? What is it that you're offering me that's different from what the bookings and the Expedias of the world are not giving me?
So a big part of it is our inspiration element. So we do the standard accommodations, flights, rental cars, transfers, and so on. But what we are doing in turn is our content. So I don't know if we have the content slides to show, but on a very high level, we do have a collection of content, what we call inspirations. And that, to me, is the future.
Yeah, yesterday in your earnings call, I think your CEO, Ji Sun, also spoke about the fact that how content generation, user engagement capabilities have really increased in the third quarter.
Absolutely. And what we're seeing is the user attention is diversifying. Right? They're no longer going after the typical only particular channel. For example, are they only searching or they're only browsing? No. They're getting inspired by these videos the KOLs are creating in all sorts of platforms and different age groups. So what we're doing is, in our platform, to be able to generate and create content is so diverse that we can attract all different age group and user groups. And this is the type of content we actually can create. For example, on this slide, sorry, the second one, if we go down one more slide, thank you. So this is a typical one that we've been doing in all sorts of different platforms, including TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Line, Kakao, and all the different 26 different languages that we cover. And we're able to share those content across all of them. And there is technology involved here, not just pretty pictures. There are translations.
It's not about those viral videos, right, that we see coming out of the region. So it's more about content related to destination. Right.
To me, it's one level more granular than viral, because viral are only around, say, 15 seconds to a minute, and you can get something out of it, but you don't get enough information. What these are videos and content that can provide you more insight about what's so good about it, and how do you go there, and how do you enjoy the experience. So this rich content is what we're actually working on. And there's a lot of technology, including AI, that's behind it. That's making it very exciting.
And I think that they're like the under 30 generation, whereas we may reach for Google or YouTube to do our inspirational research. The under 30s are sort of reaching for TikTok. So if you're not there, you're not in the consideration.
We spoke about that yesterday extensively, about how TikTok is slowly replacing Google as a search for Gen Z.
Right. If I can add a little data to behind it, the same article, the same content, we can put on SEO, we can get something like 100,000 views. But the same content you will put on TikTok with a little bit of the right level of marketing, 1.4 million.
Oh,
Okay, so that's the difference in scale on what kind of views through you actually get on those content. Partly is because the ranking algorithm on search engines are a little bit different. Partly is because the content itself is viral, meaning that they will also share with their friends and they will bring up more relevant people.
Ross, I also want, throughout these 2 days, we've been talking about the immense opportunity that, about the Middle East, about how bringing travelers to the Middle East. But you are also doing something different, which is you are like the first port of call for tourism boards to collaborate when it comes to taking Middle East travelers out of the country to other destinations. So can you speak a little bit about that opportunity as well?
Yeah, so most of the sessions have been talking about all the fabulous destinations that are exist in the Middle East and are being enhanced. For Wego, we think of the Middle East as a fabulous source market. So 60 million people in the GCC at its core, 400 million people across the Arabic-speaking world, and then we bolt on India, Pakistan, Turkey as adjacencies and sort of corridors where we do a lot of a lot of people moving in both directions. So it ends up being like a sort of a 700 plus million population target, sort of comparable to Southeast Asia. And to Schubert's point is, I don't think a lot of people in the big global travel companies are actually thinking about the opportunity as, or maybe not aware of exactly how big it is, if not today, soon. So the 60 million in the GCC have characteristics very comparable to those we see in Western Europe. So high frequencies, high basket values, so something like 5x what we see in Southeast Asia. Very relatively long stays. We often see multiple rooms being booked in a transaction. And so from so it's in a very, very attractive market, and we work with a lot of NTOs and DMOs, both within the region but also outside the region, who are trying to attract this market. And it's a key part of our it's like a co-marketing playbook that we've developed and been running for about 5 years now. So most of the tourism boards you've heard from over these few days, we've partnered with in some shape or form. It's typically a co-investment model. We work together to raise awareness of the destination, and we drive them into Wego to convert, and we provide a ton of data and analytics back to the partner.
When we are talking about tourism boards, Schubert, you also collaborated, you've signed an MOU with Qatar Tourism recently to bring travelers to Qatar. When we talk about that, there is also, how do you see your role as, as someone of changing the perception of versus the reality of what's happening in the Middle East? How do you see that role of yours?
I think it's a very important one. I think there's a lot of lack of understanding or misunderstanding what is being offered, especially around the term GCC. Right? In my part of the world, GCC is not really well defined. People don't know which are the members of GCC and what are the rules and boundaries. People know that Dubai is a hub for travel, and there's a lot of things to do, a lot of attractions, but what about the others? Do they even go there? Right? I think there's a bit of a misconception on what this part of the world can offer. I think our role here is to be able to bring the attention, the information, and also the understanding of, hey, there's a lot to do here, and there's a lot of new development here. There's very exciting, and all the new projects that are coming up, we're looking forward to be able to market them to the right people and attract them to come.
Yeah, because I guess these nations earlier were seen more as transit hubs, right? I mean, so the questions that people would have is, what can I do for 48 hours in Qatar? What is the visa process like? Where do I go and stay? So are you ready to answer all those questions right now?
To be honest, we need help. We need more help on the data and granularity that we otherwise don't have. We know the top attractions, we know the favorite hotels, but anything beyond that, we are also very much lacking. If we can't educate our users, then you're losing touch with 75% of China.
I'm sure, Ross, you can also help with that because it's also about the fact that since we are talking about outbound traffic from the region to other places, but there's also a lot of opposite to globalization. There's a lot of regionalization that's happening within the region, and we've seen that with the Qatar World Cup. With people with the shuttle flights coming in. So
room rates here in Dubai this week.
Exactly, exactly. So can you speak a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so like travel from most parts of the world, the overwhelming majority is close to home. So there's big domestic markets in Saudi, in Egypt. There's a lot of staycations take place here in the UAE. More so over the last couple of years than previously, but still it's pretty significant. Majority of trips we see booked on Wego are actually within the region. So there's a lot of intra-GCC, and then there's a lot down to the Levant, to Egypt, to Turkey, and and then sort of beyond that, we do quite a bit into Europe and North America, South Asia, all the corridors down to India, to Pakistan, and then out to East Asia. But to your question about the visas, so one thing we did specific to this to localize Wego for the Middle East traveler that maybe sort of Western companies wouldn't think to do is when you're choosing a destination here, often the key criteria is, do I actually need a visa, or can I get one in time to actually go? So we built effectively like a stock screener for countries based on their visa policies, so you can enter where you're living, what your passport is, and how long you've got before you want to depart. And it sort of just immediately filters out every country which is not possible. Very simple to build, but hugely popular. So, yeah.
Schubert, the world is eagerly waiting for Chinese tourists, and while they're doing that, how can you work with countries to bring in more Chinese tourists? And can you also talk about the fact that how has the Chinese tourists changed in the last 2 years?
Absolutely. That's a very important topic. I think a lot of people are interested in knowing about that. I cannot predict the future, so I don't know the date, but they are ready. So as of December 7th, there was a new rule that came out in the government. The day after that, our search volume for 2023 travel has gone up 900%.
I'm sorry, how much did you say?
900%.
900?
Compared to 2022 travel, meaning forward-looking travel search volume has 9x in a day since the policy announcement change.
Are you also seeing a lot of people booking just in case?
We're actually seeing some lesser percentage of booking going up, but the search term is otherwise there. People are more confident than ever compared to the last 3 years to be able to get out and travel. And what we're seeing, though, is, if I may use a China phenomenon, it's called the Singles Day. November 11th is a shopping day, like a Black Friday in China.
Okay.
And in 2022, just this past month, that behavior has changed. After 10 years of relentless growth, that has flattened for the first time. Okay? What does that mean? The Chinese user are getting more into what we call better value for the money. Okay? That's the behavioral change. So on the surface, they're willing to come out. In terms of behavior, they're more conscious about spending.
About spending, so what is their preference?
Great question. So in the past, it's all about anything can see, I'll go buy. Right? That's the typical Chinese way of dealing with things. Going forward, what they're looking after is brand and quality. Okay, they're actually going to be paying more attention to those than ever before. We're seeing that in the single days shopping spree. We're seeing a lot of brands are selling higher volume than the unknown brands. We're also seeing that people are paying a lot more attention on essentials and actually paying more attention on what are the additional little value that you can add for me. So with that as the foundation, there's a couple of recommendations that, if I may, to put in. One, In terms of the offerings you put in, if you can add a little bit of what we call sweeteners or a little bit of additional value, right? For example, we have worked with some of the hotel chains in Thailand. They simply add a one-day Metro card, okay, which may not be costing a whole lot if you buy it in bulk, but that has triggered some higher adoption and higher conversion. So adding additional value to the bundle concept is very important. In the past 2 years, the Chinese population has been used to do what we call staycation, meaning that you actually stay in a single location, but you buy a package so you can stay and do things in a certain hotel or a certain destination. So going forward, if you can add on something that can be bundled into the offering, I think that will add extra value. The value doesn't have to be much, but it could be convenience, making their life easy. I think that will be one part that I will recommend. Second is find the right channels. Well, Trip.com or Ctrip will be the right channel for a lot of you, but obviously there are other channels. I highly recommend that we can get to know you and get in touch, and then in addition, work with your tourism boards, okay? Because you know what's going to happen is they will fight all over it. Everybody is going to start doing campaigns or doing news conferences and so forth, right? So it's important that you follow the timing right. Well, when is the timing? The timing is looking at the behavior. Ross and I talked over lunch about the lunar new Chinese New Year travel trend. Pay attention to that. Okay, when is that? January 22nd. Okay, if you can read the news on how quickly that recovers, that is the first sign on how strong it will recover when the policy is finally lifted. Okay. Thirdly, if I can recommend, is create the type of inspiration and content in the right channels. Okay. In the past, it's all about doing campaigns and just getting campaigns out. My work is done. No. What you need to do is get the right type of content, like the videos, like the inspiration blogs that we talked about, and be able to get your content into that, and then be able to distribute it in the right channels in the different platforms. Okay? It's no longer a single platform. It's no longer just on a search engine or just on a single medium. It's be able to go through the platform and distribute it in the right ways so that you can get the attention otherwise getting distributed. What's happening in China in the last couple of years is the channel people are using are different than what they used to use 2.5 years ago. Okay? Your standard way of doing marketing may not be as effective. I'm not saying they're not effective. I'm just saying you need to pay a lot more attention into the details now, since people's thinking and connection points have changed in the last 2.5 years. So those are my recommendations to pay a little bit more attention on. If you don't remember what I just said, no problem. You can go offline, talk on the side. I'll give you a little bit of idea.
You can just rewatch the video.
Absolutely.
We have that. We're going to post it on the side. So with all that talk of Chinese tourists, I also want to talk about India, because India presents a huge opportunity, not just for outbound traffic, but also inbound. And of course, yesterday, Chris Nassetta talked about the fact that Dubai is a decade ahead of the other countries in the region as far as infrastructure is concerned. But I guess Dubai is decades ahead in their tourism promotion as well, because Dubai has been promoting itself in India for a really long time. And India is a huge market for inbound traffic for the Middle East. So Schubert, you already, like I said, you already have Make My Trip there. So, about bringing the India traffic to different regions in the Middle East, I would want you to talk about that. And Ross, I want you to talk about the expats leaving the country. So, inbound and outbound. Schubert, can you just go ahead and talk a little bit about the importance of the India market as well?
Absolutely. I think this is a very important one for us, not only for just regular tourism, but able to bring the momentum that's otherwise needed from all the other regions. I think what we're seeing right now is India is leading the way compared to China. For example, Thailand is seeing that, right? Before COVID, number one inbound to Thailand is China. Second, India. Okay? Right now, India is leading the way,
yes,
and how they're spending, how they're trending. So we're seeing that being shared with all the other sites and tourism boards, and how that demand behavior has changed. and give us a lot of data and insight, so we can then share with all the other sources and suppliers that we have and provide the right inventory ahead. So we see India as a leader in driving the necessary traffic in the Asia recovery, if you will. Okay. I just went, before I came here, I went to Seoul, went to Tokyo, went to Bangkok, went to Singapore. Okay. You're seeing momentums are growing, and Tokyo is packed with travelers, just packed. And things are cheap because Japanese yen is relatively cheap, but we're not seeing the Japan outbound yet. They're a little hesitant. Asia is still not necessarily have all the information like the Western world. Okay? So I think having the Indian market be able to penetrate and grow in the fast pace will give more confidence into governments and also in policies and travelers on how we can follow suit. So I think that's a very important market. That's why we want to go there.
And Ross, for you as the expat market?
Yeah, well, actually, we send travelers in both directions, so from India up to the Middle East, but also a lot of traffic originating here back to India. It's mainly sort of VFR. Roughly half the population here or more is Indian expats, and so some of our biggest origin and destination city pairs are Dubai, Mumbai, Dubai, Delhi, Dubai, Bangalore, and with Emirates now, I think the Indian network's pretty much rebuilt, and so we've seen the demand sort of back to the levels it was in 2019. For the traffic coming the other way, it is relatively price sensitive, and with everything here being dollar linked, the destination does have some issues with the sheer relative cost compared to Japan as an example. So I think that's something we need to watch. It's funny, right? I think if you asked a lot of Indians, they almost consider Emirates their national airline now. That flies to so many cities and is like the way they connect with the rest of the world. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now that the Tatars are in charge at Air India, and how that's
shaking up the things. Let's see what happens with that. We're already out of time, but I'm sure we could have had this conversation for at least another 15 or 20 minutes. Before we close, I would also like to let all of you know that we have something called the Middle East Travel Roundup, which is a newsletter. And please subscribe to that, because this is the news that you should be getting. It's a weekly right now, but we plan to make it daily very soon. So please subscribe to that as well. Thank you so much.
Send your tips to Peden.
Yes, you can. Yes, everything.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.